Rebecca Gomperts is a ship captain, a former Greenpeace worker, a gynecologist, an abortion provider, and a Dutch citizen. She runs an organization called Women on Waves that takes women in countries where abortions are illegal and often dangerous and provides the option of getting an abortion. She does this by taking her ship to these countries, picking up the women and shuttling them out to international waters. The abortions are medical abortions, not surgical abortions, which means that Gomperts administers pills, and within days, the pills induce a miscarriage. Governments often don't react warmly to Women on Waves and Gomperts when they show up. In Spain, the government forcefully tried to tow Gomperts' ship out of port at night while she was on board. In Portugal, they tried to prosecute her and after she returned to dock. In Ireland, she had the protection of a force of IRA, Irish Republican Army, women, and yet nonetheless a group of angry protesters engaged with her pretty forcefully when the ship arrived. Weeks before we arrived to Mexico to get on board the Women on Waves ship, it had been in Guatemalan waters, and the government there had sent warships to block Gomperts' vessel from picking up women, and the Guatemalan government had succeeded in shutting down that chapter of the campaign. Women on Waves typically works with a network within the country they're visiting, a network of gynecological doctors, OBG, and women's advocates to find the clients that are in need of an abortion.
So, for example, let's just start with the hotline number has been published, or we are now going to paste it around in the city again. A woman calls, then we would invite her to come. We would explain the situation, that she could come to the ship and sail to international waters, have the abortion pill there. We pick her up, bring her to the ship. In international waters, we'll offer them the abortion pill, and they can swallow it. And if they don't want to do it, it's fine too.
77?
Yeah.
Let me get it.
Okay.
Yeah? One moment.
Oh yeah.
We can perhaps try it when we're in international water.
Okay. Okay. All right. I'm gonna go up to the front and push it off.
The first trip out to sea that we took was before the government here knew that the ship was operating in its national waters. And the big obstacle for us was the weather. We ran aground twice and were nearly beached by pretty huge waves as we tried to leave the port of Ixtapa.
That's like 6 foot waves breaking right at the entrance of this harbor. Yeah, we're turning around, dude. This is like too much. I mean, that's like insane right now. That's insane, sir. Look at that.
On board were 2 young women, both in their 20s, both Mexican, who seemed pretty frightened but resolute and who had come to have abortions. We took about 6 hours to get from shore to the 12-mile line that divides national and international waters, and that's where Gomperts, who's a gynecologist, administered a sonogram to see how far along the young women's pregnancies were. Both were several weeks in. And Gomperts held a counseling session to inform the women of factors to consider, whether this was the right decision and what they might expect in terms of the after effects of taking the pills. The second trip out was after Women on Waves had held a press conference, and the government reacted pretty strongly and essentially tried every tactic in the book to stop the ship from taking women out to international waters and administering abortion. The government had first claimed that the crew did not have proper maritime and visa papers. It closed the port ostensibly due to weather, but there's some skepticism about whether that was the real reason. It threatened Gomperts with arrest for lacking permission, supposedly, to bring women out and back from international waters. None of these tactics withstood the review of a Mexican judge and Gomperts' lawyers, so we sailed out a second time with another woman needing an abortion.
Okay, eso es. Podemos volver otra vez, no? With the taking of these medicines, that's the moment the pregnancy ends. The thing is that here in Mexico, women have also been prosecuted for just having bleeding, but the problem is that you cannot always prevent the investigation, the legal trial, and that can be extremely stressful for a woman to have that.
Gomperts has been called a lot of things over the years. She's been doing this since 2001. Often she's called a pirate, but it seems to be the term that everyone uses to describe someone doing something illegal on the sea. It's sort of all-purpose. I think the better description I've seen of her is an artful dodger. I think this sums up what she does best and sort of what inspires her. The art in The Artful Dodger is a reference to her past. She went to art school before all of this, and when she built her first ship that had a full-fledged clinic and government authorities tried to block her from heading to sea, she argued successfully that the space that you might call a clinic was actually an art exhibit and not actually a ship berth, and therefore didn't need to comply with maritime rules that apply to a ship berth. But more generally, I think the art refers to the theatrics of what she does. I mean, in some ways, her work is as much about providing individual women with help as it is about free expression and about instigating a discussion, a public discussion where it otherwise isn't. The Dodger in The Artful Dodger is a reference to her stated love of driving through legal loopholes, and nowhere are the loopholes better or bigger than at sea. The loophole she uses most effectively here is quite simple. A boat is like a slice of land from the place it's flagged, which is to say that the laws of a flag state are what apply on a vessel that flies a certain country's flag. That's true once the boat gets into international waters, so that's 13 miles offshore. In the case of Women on Waves and Gomperts' ship, the flag state is Austria, where abortion is legal. So essentially the play here is that she brings Austrian law 13 miles off the coast of Mexico and makes something that's legal very far away effectively legal here.